One of the difficulties that astronomy often faces simply is we get to see what we happen to be able to see from where we are. It's very limited in really being able to go in and adjust your observations the way a lot of sciences can. There is no laboratory. We're stuck with what we can observe. Because of that, and because solar eclipses are one of these rare cases where different parts of Earth actually see different things as the shadow will hit different areas, astronomers for some time have been traveling to go and observe these. And the advent of photography meant that these could be observed and that you really only needed a few astronomers to go and observe that could spread out that information. And so one of Bernard's early contributions was the early photography of these solar eclipses, and that involved traveling across the world and across the United States for these. And so 3 of these plates show images that Bernard took by traveling around the United States, traveling anywhere from having to go hundreds to thousands of miles across the United States to photograph these. And these were really some of the first photographs that were being made of solar eclipses and represented really the first scientific imaging that was actually being shared of these. And so each one of his photographic plates was in turn discussed in publications of the time. So over a 40-year period, he was contributing numerous images that were then going out and helping the scientific community know what occurred at eclipses that simply not everyone could be at. And that usefulness of the photography is continued. And so a much later Vanderbilt astronomer, Carl Seifert, also did some photography, and that's the prints that are in here are actually much more recent, from the 1940s, of a solar eclipse. And again, it's one that takes advantage of where you are mattering. And so he took images of the eclipse from Nashville. Images like those could be compared with images elsewhere. And in particular, this eclipse, depending on where you were on Earth, affected whether or not the moon eclipsed some sunspots. And that was actually used to help study what was going on in the sun by comparing what was observed here versus what was observed further north. And so these particular images were actually reproduced in the Tennessean, and Seifert used that as an opportunity to talk about that these images would have allowed them to understand what was going on with those sunspots simply by comparing it with elsewhere on Earth that observed it differently. And so these images really represent one of the rare ways that astronomers for a long time could actually get different results and sort of control what they were seeing.